What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Levels. I'm Jeremy Long, joined as always by the Sportsnista Cassandra Cousineau. We have come to the end of 2021, and we are now a few days into 2022, and it feels like, Jesus, where's the time gone? But also the longest period of time ever in the history of humanity. Cece, how are you? You look well.
I'm on. Okay, here we go. I was on mute. Man, hanging in there. I still feel like 2021-ish. Still fog of war, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, we're getting through it. And, we decided there's no better way to end the year, even though we're 6 days into the new year, than to put a final stamp on it and discuss the best of 2021 for boxing and MMA. So we're going to be talking about the most impactful fights, the biggest surprises, the best fights, best knockouts, and, of course, just a fun best walkout category and everything. So, usually we're joined by our friend and co-host, Ralph Velez Jr., Ramblin' Ralph. Unfortunately, Ralphie is a little bit under the weather. We wish him a very speedy recovery, our friend. And, of course, our guy, Mike Dixon, out doing
Better
whatever
get your
Mike
shit
Dixon
together
does.
before it's time to go to Dubai. I know that.
Doing all that stuff. Yeah, he's got a fun trip planned for Dubai, a nice working trip. So he's got to get healthy and happy and back to 100%. So we wish him the very best. He'll join us next time, I'm sure. This year, last year was full of so many good moments, so many good fights, so many good knockouts, especially after the events of 2020, and it finally felt like all around the world, combat sports, whether you agree or disagree, led the way. They led the way back into entertainment, into the mainstream, and kind of charged ahead. Dana White, and his company doing what they do, decided, screw the pandemic. We're putting on fights. We'll go to an island. We'll do all this. Again, whether you agree with it or you're not, it's happened. So, it finally felt like getting things back to a little bit normal, although several events were canceled and postponed around the world because of the coronavirus pandemic and everything. So, but we still had a lot of good stuff.
Bubble.
We finally got up out of the bubble. A lot of people finally got up out of the bubble and, put their hard-earned careers and lives on the line to entertain us, not only fight fans, but also journalists and media members and everything from around the world. Anything, before we get to our official category, CC, anything that really stood out to you this year? I mean, it's been a long, long year, although it felt like it was a short year at times. Anything that stood out to you as far as, you're an active media member around the UFC, of course, doing almost every single event. Anything stand out to you for this year? Past year.
Yeah, and I have to go to boxing, and I think it's women's boxing. I think 2021 was kind of a pivotal year for women's boxing, led really by the work that Eddie Hearn did on DAZN to give women a platform. Certainly Top Rank had Michaela Mayer. We're going to reference her a little bit later in the show. But I do think that it was a pivotal year for women's boxing. And it was global. You got Ebony Bridges coming out of Australia, of course, Katie Taylor in the UK, Michaela Mayer and Claressa Shields here. Early in the year, there was Franchon Cruz, who I'm really glad to hear that she was picked up by Matchroom. But there were meaningful fights in women's boxing. I think that the well is deeper than it ever has been. Still a little shallow in some divisions. Sinisa Estrada came on strong at the end of the year as well. Actually, she had that knockout in the middle of the year. So that's the one big standout. There were many, but that's the one thing that I would point to is kind of just the emergence of women's boxing with contenders all around the world.
Yeah, Amanda Serrano, man, becoming a millionaire on a YouTube card. Look at that. And whether you agree with that or not, it doesn't matter. I feel good for her. A very captivating, captivating fighter who has finally feels like she's earning her due. And it did feel like a standout moment, like you said, for a lot of ladies. And we'll get to more of that. But that actually leads right into the first category, most impactful fight of the year. And I know we said fight, but this could extend to anything. And we'll start in boxing. And I'll begin with you, CC. Boxing, eventful, most impactful fight of the year or event of the year. Did I lose you?
For me, most impactful fight, I'm going to have to go with what George. Did you lose me?
No, you're breaking up just a bit.
All right. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Man, we've been having some technical. I've been having some today. So give me a. Yeah. Okay. Most impactful, I'm going to go with George Kambosos and what he was able to do in Madison Square Garden, taking autumn straps from Teofimo Lopez. That fight was postponed, at least 3 times. And it was COVID, and then there was a back and forth on where it was going to be. There was a purse bid, and then it went back to the zone because Triller just lost their mind and lost their way. But it's not just impactful because of the amount of championship belts that he was able to take, but like the shakeup in the division. He's the king now, and you're going to have to go to dethrone him.
Yeah. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And George Kambosos went in there, and not saying that he was the most, underdog dog there ever was. Of course not. But many people didn't foresee the outcome. His shocking upset of Teofimo Lopez. Of course, many people didn't see Teofimo Lopez defeating Lomachenko and doing what he did. So it just reminds me that division. Lightweight, around that 130, 135 pound, right in there. That is a really crazy division right now. Crazy talented and stacked all the way around. And you still got Loma, who's on the outside coming back in now, who looked really impressive in 2 fights this year, doing his thing. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff.
I would say in his 2 fights after losing to Teofimo, he's looked the best out of all of the lightweights.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though he didn't get the KO, he came close against Comey in his last outing and everything. But he looked like the Loma that earned his place among many of pound for pound rankings throughout the last couple of years and everything. So it looked really good. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. And it makes me excited. Not excited. I mean, we've had Teofimo Lopez on the show. Not excited, but hey, it's combat sports. Someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose. Yeah. And George Kambosos is now king of the lightweight. So there it is. Even with Devin Haney and these kind of guys on the outskirts, you can only fight who's put in front of you. So, and if nobody wants to fight, what are you going to do? For me, I go back to your original post. I had actually Clarissa Shields leading the pay-per-view, headlining a pay-per-view. First-time females have against her fight against Marie-Eve Dicaire. First time that's happened since I think Layla Ali. Did it back years and years ago. But she took a chance on herself. She turned down $350,000 guaranteed from Showtime to kind of go out and find out, where the women's division was, where she was. She goes out there and wins, but I don't think it so much was the fight itself. It was the fact that she teamed up with sponsors and folks within the industry that said, you know what, here we go. We're going to do this. We're going to put on, and it was a really good card. And the pay-per-view numbers didn't blow anyone out of the water, but someone has to be first. Someone has to be, you got to get back in there, and you can't wait 2 decades in between moments like this. So there you go. I mean, Clarissa Shields,
Marlon Esparza was on that card, and also, she put it in her hometown of Flint, Michigan, which was still shut down from the pandemic, and I think they could only fit like 350 people in there. So really she was off the sponsorships and pay-per-view. So it wasn't just about her because she wasn't going to make that much. But it was about the opportunity and the meaning to go in there and be first. And I agree. It was absolutely impactful.
Impactful fight of the year for MMA. What do you got?
Oh my goodness. So there were so many of them, right? But I'm going back to Francis Ngannou actually becoming the heavyweight champion and taking it from Stipe. And the reason why that's impactful is because then they stripped him.
Like almost immediately.
They stripped him in. Like there's obviously some issues with Dana White and Francis's representation, but he's got one more fight left on his UFC contract after this one, and it may significantly alter the landscape of the UFC heavyweight division depending on what happens with this next fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge impact there. You know, not to go off on a tangent, but it seems like Dana White is this, you know, if you're not with me, you're against me kind of attitude, which is taking him a lot of places. But for your heavyweight championship to be won in an emphatic fashion, you have a good, young, marketable guy and Francis Ngannou who has a fan-friendly style.
He got a continent behind him, damn it. A whole
continent, you know, and then to immediately strip him because he won't come to terms. He won't fight for peanuts, I guess, in his eyes. You know, crazy stuff. I'm going to go with going back to May of earlier this year, Charles Oliveira defeating Michael Chandler at UFC 262 to snag that lightweight championship, start a new era that didn't have Khabib Nurmagomedov in it. But the bigger impact was for Charles himself, who has such a winding career that, you know, even though he's still a very young guy, no one outside of the hardcore faithful of his really envisioned him winning in the way he did, winning at the time that he did. You know, for him to turn that corner and snag that championship belt, then defend it to supplant him, to supplant kind of that Khabib shadow and actually come into his own as having this new era. Yeah, just a really proud moment, because if you've watched MMA for any amount of time, I mean, you know Charles Oliveira, you know what he's about. You've seen him win some incredible fights where he's been out of it. You've seen him lose some fights in heartbreaking fashion. And he just seems like one of MMA's true nice guys and true respectful warriors. To see him finally, you know, beat a really good challenger in Michael Chandler, and to do it the way he did it, being knocked down early in the first round and then coming back and stopping him in the second, I think that was pretty impactful for MMA. Just showing that it's still out there. Believe in your dreams, kids.
Yeah. Dream big. You know, my 1B is still in those lighter weight divisions, and what Brandon Moreno did in taking that championship from Figueroa. Think about when why am I losing Henry Cejudo, when he retired, whatever it is that he did, when he walked away, people didn't know what was going to happen to the division, similar to what happened with Khabib. But I feel like there were more kind of challengers in lightweight. But, you know, for Brandon to become the first Mexican-American champion for that division, and, you know, there's some legitimate challengers that are still there, too. And so good to see, you know, the smaller guys getting their due.
Do their thing, man. And even that, I actually had a hard time. I was wrestling before the show with actually giving it to Glover Teixeira, you know, in his career, and being, you know, 40 years old, about 800 years old in MMA years, going out and doing it the way he did it, and just climbing back from some just devastating knockouts, you know, being on the receiving end of some beatings, and then just pulling it all together near the end, you know, what would be the twilight of most other fighters' careers. And you got this guy who just grinds away and has the last couple of years really leaned on his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling, you know, who still got crazy power for a guy, you know, like him. but who's leaned back on his fundamentals and has carried him all the way to the championship belt. And, again, another one of these guys from Brazil who just seems like a very, very humble guy. He's come from very humble beginnings. To see him grab the gold, I wouldn't be wrong. I wouldn't be angry if people said, hey, I'd rather Glover and Teixeira snag that one. So,
Yeah, we saw him before that, like knocking Anthony Smith's teeth out his mouth, talking about sorry, it's just business.
Talking to him, just bad talking to him. Sorry.
Anthony, it's just business.
like Abib used to do, just, it's my time.
And lying, it's okay, man. I understand.
I get it. It's just business. Next up. Biggest surprise of 2021. We go back to boxing. What was your biggest surprise from 2021 for the world of boxing?
It's really, I'm going to go back to the sanctioning, not the sanctioning bodies, but the WBO, which has been just horrendous historically. They had too many damn titles, too many champions, and too few directions, but they started to actually condense the belts. And I think that's the biggest surprise for me, because then you start to see some other things happening recently with the WBC, with Mauricio Suleiman saying, okay, we have one undisputed champion, and that is George Kambosos, and basically stripping Devin Haney of his email championship at the same time. And so that's kind of the biggest surprise, to see kind of these big players actually start to do things that are logical in the sport of boxing.
Yeah, I think they finally started to turn a corner, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, we're also talking about the same, WBC who created franchise championships just a year or so ago. While at the same time having their belts defended on a regular basis by guys who they didn't consider a franchise championship, championship material, and that's how Devin Haney got the belt in the first place. When Loma was elevated to franchise champion. So maybe they're going to start getting wise to it and condensing more and more, so we can actually get some, more meaningful fights as far as not having so many alphabet soup titles out there.
We want no more Gmail championships.
Email championships. Who's the never mind. I was gonna take a swipe at somebody here local, but never mind. I'm gonna go with biggest surprise, not biggest upset, but biggest surprise. Alexander Usyk's defeat of Anthony Joshua. He was a 6-1 underdog.
Yeah.
And not so much that Usyk defeated Joshua. He knew, Usyk has a tough career at cruiserweight, just a very tough guy and a good skilled boxer, but just the way he did it.
Yeah.
The way he dominated and just utterly confused Anthony Joshua for the better part of that entire fight. It was never really close. I mean, Joshua wants the middle rounds, but the way that Alexander Usyk went out there, it just worked his game plan on the bigger, a longer guy, and just
more athletic. Yeah.
Went out there and did his damn thing, man.
Yeah. You know what? And I really liked, it was an enjoyable fight. It was entertaining. I mean, there was so much at stake. As well, and Usyk is such an entertaining, interesting kind of character for certain, and he's a real cruiserweight. He's a cruiserweight fighting at heavyweight and beating folks.
Yeah, and it wasn't. He didn't come up and just do one heavyweight fight and just shock the world. No, he moved a heavyweight a couple years ago. Has been fighting guys. And just is exerting his will. And look, man, Eddie Hearn has done a lot for the sport, but we've said it for the last couple of years, and I will die on this hill. Eddie Hearn did not want to have Joshua facing Deontay Wilder at any point. He wanted that, he wanted that Tyson Fury matchup. To him, that was a better one. He avoided Deontay Wilder. Hey, look,
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him. But seeing, what's happened and everything, getting exposed by Andy Ruiz, people thought it was just a Buster Douglas moment, a guy just coming in there and doing something because he wins the belt back. now you have Alexander Usyk, who didn't just go in there and get a flash knockout. No, he went in there and exerted his dominance, exerted his will over Anthony
And he
Joshua.
outboxed him, and that's an interesting thing you said, is that
Yeah.
people thought he was exposed against Ruiz. And I don't, it's not one of my favorite terms in boxing, exposed. Sometimes people lose, but I really do think you're right. I think he was exposed against Ruiz, and there's another fight out there for him to lose. Depending on the matchup, I really think that Anthony Joshua is very beatable, more so than we thought he was. Ruiz kind of shocking loss.
There's still big fights out there. Of course, he could get the rematch and go in there. I mean, he did go back with a different game plan against Andy Ruiz and win his belts back. So he could do that against Usyk. But, I mean, even if he doesn't.
Tyson Fury, you would still fight. You know how much money, even if the strap is not on the line? I mean, who did Floyd fight in his 50th fight? Berto? Come on now.
Come on, man. And made $100 million. Yeah. I mean, you're talking at least $80-90 million for each guy. If that fight were to go down, and which you should, because he'll do anything, but he won't fight Deontay Wilder. I'll tell you that much. And Deontay Wilder, for all the mess that's gone down with him and Tyson Fury, that he exerted his right that it was bound in his contract to get his third fight against Tyson Fury. He didn't do anything wrong. He just got beat by a better boxer, and he got knocked out. And whatever, but he is still a dangerous guy. Match him up against anybody. He's still got that weapon of mass destruction in that right hand. So, the heavyweight title picture is just crazy fun right now. Probably the funnest it's been in years. And there's still a lot of fun to be had, a lot of good fights, and maybe we'll see some of those fights in 2022, excuse me, but
they quit playing.
If they stop playing around, I don't know. They keep on that bullshit. MMA, as far as biggest surprise of 2021.
Listen, got to go with what happened in December in T-Mobile with Juliana Pena taking the belt from Amanda Nunes, who looked just invincible prior to that. And she looked the biggest mess of her entire career, certainly of her championship reign in that fight. And the way that Juliana was able to rebound in that second round, because she almost got her out of there in the first round. The way she was able to come back in the second and then to submit her in that, it was just wild. It was wild to watch. Good for anybody who won some money on the fight, because she was a huge underdog, but she did exactly what she said she was going to do.
Yeah, that's exactly who I have down to. Juliana Pena doing her thing. It's not so much that she did it. I knew someone could beat Amanda Nunes. They just had to survive and weather that storm. I thought it was going to come down to a decision, whoever did finally knock her off her perch. But to go out there and not only recover after, being shellacked the first round, but to then exert her will and start really outboxing, outstriking Amanda Nunes with the jab, just had her head popping back. We had never seen Amanda Nunes get just outstruck before. I mean, she's been submitted before. She's lost fights before, but we've never seen her just get beat up, like you just said, and to do that at UFC 269 and get submitted. Hats off to Pena. Hats off to Pena all the way around. And that's crazy because we haven't even, we talk about all those, and those have been crazy good fights. And we haven't even gotten into the best fight of the year. This is up for high debates here because there were so many. But we'll start with boxing. Your best fight of the year, Cece.
I'm gonna go a surprising one, and I'm going with the ladies. Michaela Mayer and Maeve Hamadouche in Virgin Hotel in Las Vegas. That was Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and nobody was expecting that unless you had seen any footage on Hamadouche and knew how she got down. There was no reason to expect that, but they came in there. Michaela said, Our plan was to bang with her in spot, and she did. And she ended up with, the scores were wide, yes, but it's boxing. The right person won that fight. But if you can get a hold of that on YouTube, if y'all haven't seen it, watch that fight. It really was, for me, the fight of the year, maybe because it was so unexpected and it was late in the year. It was the day before the Crawford Porter fight. But yeah, it was my favorite and for me, the best one of the year.
Yeah, it certainly fell under the radar because of that Crawford Porter fight. It got overshadowed a little bit. But anyone who knew and watched a little bit of either one of these ladies with Hamadouchia's style, you did not expect Michaela Mayer to go out there and test that, because she had a very physical style and she loved to swing and bang. And for Mayer to stand there and say, you know what, nah, here's what the game plan is. I'm going to stand toe-to-toe and we're going to do this. I think she not only a great fight, just an amazing fight, but also, hey, this show is called Levels, right? I think Michaela Mayer just in front of a lot of people just went up to that next level. She's not just a slick boxer, who is afraid to mix it up. She went in there and banged with one of the best, and to come out victorious in that and give people a very exciting fight. Kudos, best fight of the year. But I have to defer back to the heavyweights. Fury Wilder 3 in October was crazy. Just like the first two fights. You talk about an all-time trilogy. They completed it, and yes, Fury gets the better of it for the history and for the legacy, but there is nothing to be ashamed about if you're Deontay Wilder, even though you made every excuse in the world after the second one. That's okay. You still gave us one of the best trilogies in boxing. I'm talking up there with Frazier, Ali, and the greats like that. That one of the best. So I gotta tip it over there to Fury and Wilder for doing their thing and giving fight fans every single cent of themselves. Neither guy wanted to give an inch, and they had something to prove, and just wanted to. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this decade we're putting it out for fight of the decade.
And he still knocked Fury down twice.
He still knocked him down twice. I'm just, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't just a single one-sided shellacking. It was, look, Fury just has this iron jaw. He was knocked down in every single fight and got back up, and this will to keep going and then put a guy out. Not once, but twice. And, arguably the first one could have gone either way, but it was a draw. What an amazing thing with titles on the line. It wasn't like two guys who were coming up and doing it for nothing and maybe a shot later at the title, but it was heavyweight championship, gold on the line, lineal championship, bragging rights, legacy, build up, feelings, emotion, and there you go, man.
He's 6'9", 300,
6'9", 300 versus 6'7", 800. It was King Kong versus Godzilla, and it was just amazing to see two monsters go at it, man. And that's what you love. And there you go. So best, we give all that love. Best fight, MMA. What do you think?
Dude, freaking Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler.
Stop looking at my paper.
Then we're just gonna have to agree on it. We're just gonna have to agree on it. Like, Justin Gaethje to me is he's the real boogeyman. If you're a fighter, you don't want to fight him. Sometimes you have to, but you're gonna be rearranged, and you're never gonna be the same after you fight Gaethje. And goddamn, Michael Chandler though, I can't say enough about him and the fact that he just went to war. And this is for an interim. Like, this is for the chance to fight the champ.
Yeah.
So but that to me, that was the best fight. And then there's a bunch of them in there, like in contention. But I just have to go back. And it reminded me of, remember Robbie Lawler and
Rory?
Rory McDonald.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
Man, just two guys.
Never gonna forget it.
I talk about Fury and Wilder. You talk about two guys who didn't want to give an inch, who just, by the end were just slanging and banging, throwing wild turkey, man. The hot stinking cheese. everything but the kitchen sink they were throwing at each other. You know, I've already mentioned Michael Chandler twice this evening. On both times he was on the losing end of fights. But, you know, you talk about a guy who I already had high respect for, Michael Chandler. I interviewed him, talked to him years ago before he ever won the championship from Eddie Alvarez in Bellator. But just a guy who's outstanding. He's kind of one of these Dustin Poirier type guys.
Yeah.
Not only is he a great warrior, but he's a really decent guy outside of the cage. And to come up short, it sucks. I know it sucks for him, but to lose in the way he did, he lost, but he didn't lose.
Yeah.
You know, he's right there in the title mix again. We're talking about him versus maybe McGregor or McGregor, you know, Gaethje. McGregor don't want to fight Gaethje. He don't.
Ain't no upside in that. Ain't no upside in that.
Look, come on, man. Come on. Man. Go back to go. You know, and I like Conor McGregor, and I like Conor McGregor. I've always said that. Go back to fighting Cowboy Cerrone's and stuff like that. You don't want that, especially right now. Especially right now, you don't want that. This version of the highlight Justin Gaethje for best fight of the year. You know what? I'm going to switch up to.
What up, MP? Let's see.
We're gonna save knockout of the year for last. We're gonna go with walkout of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna go back to actually Michaela Mayer. She's my 1A. I do have a 1B in my pocket because but she came out. So her good friend Michaela Mayer was actually in a rock band in her teens, and in that rock band, and I cannot remember her name. I'm so sorry, girl. The lead guitarist now in the Alice Cooper band was also her bandmate and a good friend, and she played the walkout music. I was a little nervous to play it on the show because then they just mute our shit. Google it. Go to YouTube and check out Michaela Mayer's walkout in the fight against Maeve Hamadouche. It is banging. Did you see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in the venue, like it was just the right size for it too, so she didn't get drowned out. But man, like I could still vividly see it. Like gives me chills. My 1B though is Terrence Crawford just went old school against Sean Porter and came out to LL Cool J's "I'm Bad." Ain't have nobody with him. It was just him and the music. And you know what? He is. He bad.
He a bad man. He's a bad man. Well, you know, I think I get a nickel every time I mention his name, but I got to go with this guy. When Tyson Fury doing his thing, coming out, the crown, the kingly ship. He had subjects. He was carried out to the ring. That's kind of old school. That's that, you know. Back in the day, look at these pictures, man. This guy just amazing, man. You talk about a guy who just a couple years ago was not known at all in the United States as far as boxing fans, but over the last few years, he's made Las Vegas his home, and the people now during his fights with Deontay Wilder, they were chanting "USA, USA" for Tyson Fury, who is not from the USA.
Yeah, y'all MS is crazy.
Yeah, y'all stupid, number one, but doing the damn thing, yeah, the baddest butt ever, Bud Crawford.
Well, you know, we have another one. Do you have the picture?
Yeah, I got it.
Like we both were going to use it, and I was like, "No, you take it," and then we both went another way. But we got to mention this because it was spectacular.
Brian Ortega at UFC 266 comes out to The Purge and also The Purge speech. If you've never watched the movies, you find them on Netflix or whatever. But he came out, him and his whole crew in Purge masks, looking to do the damn thing. Man, they look good. The only problem with that is that if you come out with an awesome walk like this, you can't go out there.
Yes.
You can't go out there and lose, man. You go out there and he lost to Alexander Volkanovski for that featherweight championship. Excuse me, at UFC 266.
Yeah, and those final rounds were not kind.
They were not kind
either. Yeah,
he needed that mask going out later because his face was all beat
busted up.
He got busted up, man. That's all I'm saying. If you come out there and do it, you remember 3 years ago when Izzy came out and he was dancing,
pop locking,
pop locking, everything, and then he went out there and won.
Yeah,
you can't come out there and lose and do that shit, man. Come on. So that's the only reason. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
So Tyson did his thing. So,
and please, make note, y'all, that Jeremy did just attempt to pop lock. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. It was some popping. I don't know if you got some locking in there.
It just does it naturally now. I'm at that age.
It just,
that one arm.
The one arm. There, you see that, MP?
Hey, get out of here. Get out of here. We might have another contender for knockout of the year here through the screen. Knockout, a best knockout of the year, started boxing. Who do you got?
I'm going with Gabe Rosado on this. Gabe been around for a minute, and I don't know how much longer he's going to stick around. He's taken a lot of damage to his career, but to see him get that emphatic, I can't even remember the last name of the dude. He knocked him out so badly, I can't remember the dude's name. Starts with an M. I'm going with the Gabe Rosado knockout.
Gabe Rosado knockout. Good one. Good one. I almost went with Josh Warrington, Mauricio Lara, where Josh Warrington. It was the return of British boxing. Finally, back. Warrington was undefeated at the time, and Lara just kind of put an end to that.
Yep.
Slumped him over bad. I was gonna go with that one, and I was like, you know what, man. Also, I forgot that earlier this year, he would eventually drop the belt to Shakur Stevenson, but our guy, man, I gotta be biased in this one. Jamel Herring, our guy Jamel Herring, KO and Carl Frampton in April of 2021, doing his thing with an uppercut. That's what started it all, but TKOing him. With
an uppercut.
Yeah, started with an uppercut, man, in a fight that a lot of people thought that was going to be the second coming for Carl Frampton, and he was going to regain the crown.
It wasn't.
Instead, it was his swan song. He retired right after that, and no.
And they became good friends.
And they became great friends. And how can you not be friendly with Jamel Herring? I mean, he's one of the nicest guys out there. But Carl Frampton, of course, retired. No shame in that. He had a great career. But Jamel Herring, I gotta be biased and say, our guy did that one. So,
and in that same division, Oscar Valdez and Miguel Burchell. That one is, I think for me, Rosado was just kind of like a sentimental one. And I know we are kind of late in there, John Moody. I had some technical difficulties to overcome. That's what happened was. But and you know what? And Valdez was an underdog in that fight too. And a lot of people thought that Burchell was really going to be the one KOing him. And so, but I just had an issue that they let Oscar actually fight after peeing dirty on that.
Yeah, and I mean that one, and then there were so many like Inoue and Donaire, and all these guys doing their thing.
Donaire was late. Was that the 30th or the 31st?
Yeah, that was right at the end of the year. Donaire getting back down there and putting those damn hands on guys. But Inoue doing his thing all year long. The monster, especially here. Right in our backyard. Get out there and putting old boy down. I forgot his name. Sorry. I know.
Dude, where the frick is Inoue? Top Rank basically promotes him just when he comes to the U.S., but this guy is a superstar. And it just goes radio silent when he's not fighting. That just doesn't make no sense to me.
Perfecting his craft, man. I don't know. I don't know. He goes back to Radiation Mountain where he lives, and then comes back. And is even stronger.
Well, he is a monster, was it Godzilla that came out and fought them radiated three-headed?
See, that's where I was going with it. Then I was like, is it wrong because he's No,
I got there.
Okay, all right, there you go. What do you think? MMA biggest knockout, best knockout, MMA.
You know what? There was for me. You know what? I still didn't decide coming back into this one. That's so funny. I had it at the top of my head, and then I was like, Rose Namajunas with the head kick to Weili Zhang in like 5 seconds or something. It was like within the first minute of the fight, and Weili popping up like still wanting to fight, indicating that you was just knocked out. You don't even remember that it happened to you. Huge fight. I know UFC really wanted Weili to become a superstar. The audience that she brings from China is very important to them, and she's still very good. But Rose just has kind of that extra bit to her, even in that second fight. It looked to me actually that Weili had done enough to win it, but I'm not mad that it was Rose. But that was the KO of the year for me, just the fact that it was so quick and it was the head kick.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You know what? Until you said that, I didn't even go that direction, but that was a hell of a just sent her to the shadow world. She popped up like, whoo, well, you know, what happened?
Let me just tell you something real quick. I asked my daughter to bring me some water, right? And this is how you know how your kids see you. This is a cup that I would give them. You bring me a glass.
I'm a grown person.
Like you see me on your level, like you bring me the emoji cup.
Emoji cup with the shit on it.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, we'll have a talk.
That's what I think of you, Mom.
Right.
All right, then. Let's talk about knockouts again. For me, I'm gonna go with your boy. Kamaru Usman knocking out Jorge Masvidal in emphatic fashion at UFC 261 in April, and their rematch, very highly anticipated rematch, and just picture perfect right hand sent him back to last week where he thought he was still training for a fight, back to when he thought he was relevant, back into his silk robe that he stole off someone's grandmama. And that was probably one of the more satisfying knockouts I've ever seen. I mean, it was just not because I dislike either guy or whatever. It's not like that to me. It's more, it was just a picture perfect right hand. That's what every fighter dreams about. It's what everybody who's in combat sports thinks about, you know, that walk-off just punch of the year right there. And
Trevor Whitman had to have been so pleased with himself. You know, that's what they trained to do. That's what they trained to do.
He was shaking his fist the entire time. I like it. So much. Best knockout of the end. There's so many, but just pure satisfaction when we saw it live. Just kept going back and watching it over and over again. Mm-hmm. Just like, this is just perfect. He just froze my man up. You know, late in the year, some people would say maybe Jake Paul knocking out Tyron Woodley. You know,
fuck them people.
But you know, fuck those people. So you know, don't bring them over here. Even though I got no problem with it, I talk about it all the time. But Tyron Woodley, you know what? Completely off subject for anything we're talking about. But do you think, CC, that Tyron Woodley, like Anthony Smith said, was it Anthony Smith or was it Bisping, so that Woodley has messed up his legacy by going out and doing the things he's done?
Yeah, I agree. I agree because, well, you know, you have people who have been fans of or been covering MMA for long enough to know what an athletic, imposing fighter Tyron Woodley was, and the type of fighters that he actually beat in the octagon throughout his championship reign. But he made himself a caricature after his contract expired with UFC. He could have gone to Bellator probably and won some more fights there, maybe even become champion there, but he decided to go for the money and fight Jake Paul, which I ain't mad at, but the way that he was beaten, especially in that second fight, absolutely does tarnish his legacy. Like, you was laid out, dog. Laid the fuck out.
You and your boy Askren, how y'all both get knocked out?
Both y'all. You and your best friend, kaputs. Like, it just...
Look, man, I love the loyalty, but look, you and your whole unit is done. he smashed both y'all's unit, man. Yeah.
I mean, so badly. Like Tyron's mama. Did you see the clip afterwards? Now, MMA fans, y'all need to stop talking to people's mamas after the fight, whether they win or not. It's just disrespectful, and y'all ignorant as hell. But somebody said, what happened out there? Did you see Mom say, "What the fuck you think happened out there?" She from St. Louis. She gonna come with you at you with that energy. But stop talking to people's mamas. She like 70 years old.
Yeah. It's just shoving cameras in people's faces as soon as fights in, man. It's just
you goofer.
You goofy. You suspect. You suspect. And that doesn't even all the stuff this year with Conor McGregor and all the turkeys and it's just been a crazy year. It's fun. But look, combat sports is different. People like to, especially Dana White and company, they like to say that we're like football, we're like basketball. We're like, no, you're not, man. You're not. And that's not bad. You don't need to be. You're talking about
making a lot of money now being that.
Make a lot of money to go in there and punch and kick other people in the head, break arms, break legs, do it. Be different. Be different. Okay. Look, Dana White cusses out people all the time. His CFO is now Jake Paul's manager, and he hates the guy now. The guy is a warlock. He kept calling him a warlock. I guess making fun of his nose or whatever. He's a warlock. Let me
tell you, I hollered when he said, "Ask the warlock."
Ask the warlock. Dana White is awesome.
I'm gonna get a T-shirt and actually give it to Dana.
Ask the warlock.
Ask the warlock. That was hilarious. You know what? A lot of it is, smack talk for smack talk's sake, but there is some there between what's going on between Dana and I can't even think of the warlock. So there's some other stuff happening. So it ain't just for show.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. So before we close it out, CC, boxing fight you hope to see this year or are looking to see this year, or what do you look for looking forward to in this 2022?
Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. If it doesn't happen in 2022, I don't want to see it. Just don't want to. It doesn't mean anything. Terrence Crawford's going to be 35 or 36 years old. And now it's just gamesmanship for no reason at all. And if that fight doesn't happen in 2022, I also think it's just bad for boxing, period. And although I think it's a very good fight for Errol Spence to fight Ugas, and Ugas very well could win that fight. No one expected him on 8 days notice to beat Pacquiao, and the way that he did it, leading with that jab and using his size. But that fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence is meaningful for the welterweight division. It's meaningful for both of those legacies, although I think both those guys are legitimately looking to move up, then fight each other at 152 or 154, fight each other there.
Yeah. Politics, a lot of record protecting there. And I get it. I get it to a certain degree, but if you got the skills, what does it matter? If you got the skills, let's do it. The fans want to see it. Your legacies have to have it. If we've been, I'm like you. He's Bud Crawford is going to be 35 this year. I don't want to see Floyd and Manny in the twilight of their careers trying to fight and make people care. Then, no, now's the time to do it. We almost lost it permanently with Errol Spence, drinking and driving like a fool. And, it looks like he's back. He got a couple of emphatic wins and everything. So it's time to make it now. It's time for it to happen. A lot of these guys, it's time for you to start stepping up and putting your records on the line. If you're as good as you think you are, it's time to start doing it. It's not go ahead.
Amir Khan and
Kell Brook
are fighting this year. I don't care.
Who cares?
I don't care. Nobody cares.
It should have done it years ago, but they didn't want to do it because they were scared. And now they're doing it when no one gives a shit.
No, make your money. Go ahead, y'all. Hope you get back home, as healthy as possible. But I ain't paying for that.
No, ain't nobody doing that. And the UFC decided to up their pay-per-view prices once again. That's a totally different thing. It was just on ESPN today.
From 64 to
let me see.
69 now?
Pay-per-view price. I just saw it and I just threw my head in disgust. I was like,
Come on now.
I was like, no.
Well, shit, the way that is looking, folks are going to be back in the house soon. It might be the only thing to do.
From $69 to $75.
Trying boxing prices now.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll watch it on Twitter.
And you can threaten people as much as you want. Say, we're gonna come after you if you stream this or whatever. People still gonna do it.
Yep.
I'll watch it on Twitter.
That's exactly. So what I'll be doing, watching it.
Show me that TikTok video before it gets cut off. I will do that. $75 a pay-per-view. Get out of here, bro. It better be every championship, every pay-per-view. Because I ain't paying for some of these ESPN cards, no.
But they do, they have enough, ESPN and ESPN Plus, even though you still got to pay for the Plus. They have enough of those shows, so that if you're a fan, you can actually watch some good fights.
Yeah. Yeah, that's enough. And I think off the top of my head, who I would pay $75 to see. I think the only one I would even consider thinking about paying for is Francis Ngannou versus John Jones.
Yeah.
I think that is the only fight. And if Ngannou goes out there and loses to Cyril Gane, like he might, and if John Jones never gets back into a cage, which he might never end up back in a UFC octagon ever again. I wouldn't pay to see Stipe versus Francis. I wouldn't pay to see any more Conor McGregor fights until he's relevant and actual relevant, not just doing the stupid shit that he does, but actually relevant in the division. Even then, I lean to no, I wouldn't do that. So who else is there that actually
I would pay for that Pena and Nunes rematch?
If you're a fan of a certain fight, if you're a fan of Pena and Nunes, sure. Gaethje and somebody. Gaethje's always fun.
$500 a year on UFC?
Would I?
Because that's just 6 fights, 7 fights. You can't. I can't do it. Nah, not gonna be able to do it.
For an all day thing, man. Because now it's getting into that's the price a lot of people pay to go to say Buffalo Wild Wings and go hang out with your people, and you got beer and you got wings. And
but then you got leftovers. You fed yourself.
You got leftovers. Then you got a hangover. Then you got all kinds of stuff. You got at least a fuzzy memory of something happening, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just sitting at the house, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm cheap.
That's steep, yo. That's very, very steep.
That's Stipe Miocic.
Yeah.
That is Stipe. As if it's Stipe. All right, now I'm saying dad jokes to myself.
It's $6, right? It's a $6 increase, which is not a lot of money, but $75. That's a lot of money.
And that's not even their 4K stream or whatever. That's even more the high def, which is $99 already. That's going up to $105 or some shit like that. It's nuts. But if they think they can do it and a lot of people are paying for it, then pay for it. That's totally fine. Do whatever you're going to do. It comes down to personal decisions, especially if you're a combat fan. Are you paying for the boxing or are you paying for the MMA? Because I'm not going to pay $99 to watch Canelo destroy some guy that he was going to destroy anyway, that he shouldn't even be fighting. I'm certainly not going to watch. I don't know. Name somebody. I can't even think of somebody. I'm not going to watch Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan fight for 75. I'm sorry. I don't care that much about them.
No.
They don't.
And plus, I know who's going to win that fight. So it's we know who's going to win that fight.
Ooh, I'm gonna sip this.
The real champ going to win that fight.
we had a lot of good fights in 2021. We should have a lot more in 2022 if promoters and fighters will put their differences aside and decide to do it. So I mean, it's gonna be fun. We got a full year planned and stacked, and we got some fun things that might be coming up where
And I said
we
it at the
expand the
top of
show
the
and stuff.
show that, women's boxing had a huge moment in 2021. I expect that to even be bigger in 2022. Matchroom signed Franchon Cruz Dizerne. Later this year, we'll see Ebony Bridges coming back. Alicia Baumgartner and Michaela Mayer should be able to make something happen mid to late year. Katie Taylor's going to fight Amanda Serrano. Jessica McCaskill's still out there, perhaps to match up with Katie Taylor. If Katie gets by Baumgartner, that's going to be a very tough fight for her. McCaskill actually end up with either one of them, but there's a lot. We'll see Claressa back. Her fight got pushed back because of COVID. Supposed to be January. It's going to now be February, we think. I think Claressa is going to come back to boxing more in 2022. So we'll see her back in a ring instead of the octagon. Sinisa Estrada, Marlon Esparza. There's so many women out there who are going to make this year very exciting for boxing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun and exciting for everyone. Yeah, think about our friend Ebony Bridges, and her just being on the front of the New York Post the other day. No, she fighting everybody. She fighting Instagram. She fighting.
And if y'all don't know, she's very funny. And so this is a joke, but she talked about her appendages being inflated as a result of being vaccinated, and she actually brought receipts. And so gotta go check out her IG to see what she's talking about. But they tried to shut her down.
Make sure the kids are in bed.
Yeah.
If you got a significant other, make sure the door's locked. Something.
Her hands hurt, but other things they're not hurting on her right now.
There's a sock on the door. Something. Because you gonna need some time to examine that Instagram. Go there.
Yep.
we certainly do love her. We got to get her on the show this year again. We had her scheduled a couple times this past year, and it just kind of fell through. It didn't work out, but we'll get her back in. She's always a hoot to talk to. So, and thank you all so much for joining us this last couple of years as we transition, from radio to this to maybe some radio opportunities here in the future. Go back through thelevelshow.com and our YouTube page and everything to see all of our past interviews where we don't just talk about the fights that our guests had coming up. We talk to them about their lives and their, try to get them a little bit in their feelings outside of the sports that they compete in and everything, especially like our interviews with the legend Christy Martin, whose ex-husband, tried to murder her.
Man,
you spoke with Clarissa Shields and had a really good conversation with her, Michaela Mayer. A lot of the women that we spoke about during the show, Jessica McCaskill, so many fun, and especially our guy Jamel Herring. Always great talking to him. We got some really, really classic interviews on there. So go back through there, listen. We're on all your favorite podcasting too. So if you just want audio versions of the show, go back through that. And we appreciate you guys liking it, sharing the show, because you're real fight fans. You're the real MVPs. And that'll do it for this episode. And we'll see you next time. We'll have Ralph Velez back with us. Speedy recovery there, Ralphie boy. And we'll do our thing. And here's to UCC and the show. And we're going to be doing it bigger and better in 2022. All right. So for everyone here at Levels, we'll see you next time.
My sound went out.